Jordan Neely, a 30-year-old homeless man, was killed by a former Marine on New York City's F train. Neely was placed in a deadly chokehold and suffocated. New Yorkers are divided. Some residents believe that this was the correct response to an allegedly menacing rider, while others think that this was an act of wanton murder. Given the facts available, I don't see how killing Neely was justifiable in any way, shape, or form. The New York Times reports that, quote, there is no indication that he was violent or that he made any direct threats. End of story. The only valid use for deadly force is when your life is in immediate danger. You can't choke the life out of someone simply because you find them annoying. If that were the case, there'd only be a handful of subway riders left by the end of the year. Neely's alleged infraction was yelling at passengers and saying that he was hungry and thirsty. Instead of killing Neely, why didn't some of the passengers kill him with kindness? Did no one have a bottle of water or a snack? What seemed to inspire the ex-Marine to use deadly force was when Neely said that he was ready to die. It was obvious to the passengers that Neely was suffering from mental illness. Where was their empathy? Mentally ill people have been roaming the streets and the subways ever since Ronald Reagan emptied out our country's mental hospitals. Yet another conservative policy gone awry. I used to live in New York City and rode the subway hundreds of times. When confronted with a belligerent mentally ill rider, the easiest thing to do is simply move to the next subway car. It's unclear why the former Marine didn't choose this option since it's readily available. All you have to do is open the door and move to the next car. It's not that difficult. There are, however, times when riders see horrible things and are compelled to act. I once tackled a violent gang member who was terrorizing our subway car. On another occasion, an imposing pimp in a fur coat right out of Central Casting brutally slapped a hooker who he accused of not earning enough money. I'm ashamed to say that I didn't intervene. On the plus side, I didn't have to dislodge the pimp's foot out of my ass. We can't always be heroes. Most of the time, my subway rides were innocuous, or they were exciting, great for people watching, and quickly got me from point A to point B. Conservatives love to exaggerate the danger of New York City and its subway system while conveniently ignoring the trailer park meth labs in the rural neighborhoods. The New York Times reports, quote, the subway is less dangerous now than in the 1980s and 1990s when there were more than 24 murders in a single year. There were 10 murders on the subway last year, compared with about 2 murders per year on average in the 5 years before the pandemic. The MTA reports that the number of major felony crimes from January to March 2023 was 8% lower than in the same time period in 2022. If you consider the risk of auto accidents, the subway is significantly safer and cheaper than driving. Moving forward, New York City must do a better job protecting citizens who use mass transit. This would include increasing the police presence, as well as assisting mentally ill people to find the help that they so desperately need. The fact that homeless people must use the rat-infested subway as a shelter represents a moral failure. It highlights the true values of a sick society that won't protect its most vulnerable citizens. Americans are innocent until proven guilty, and the ex-Marine will have his day in court. But given the available evidence, he looks like a hot-headed vigilante who snuffed out the life of another human being simply because he was annoyed by this person's presence.